Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and make a video today for you, and I'm going to talk about basically for some of you BJJ guys how you can get the most out of your training from a self-defense aspect if you're training at a school that predominantly does sport jiu-jitsu or competition jiu-jitsu. Understand that the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu are consistent regardless of whether or not you're training at a combative school that focuses on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as its foundation, or whether or not you're training at a sport competition Gracie school. The fundamentals of Jiu-Jitsu are still the same, and namely that is that of position before submission. You want to make sure that you're focusing on attaining the best position possible, and this goes to an acronym that kind of sums up what I do in my system, and that's the acronym is SPRAWL, and basically it's spontaneous response, assets, weapons, and locations. The idea is that you have certain assets that are available, and this is something you can look at the principles of combatives. I think it was lesson 1 where I talked about what assets are. Basically they're your hands and your feet, whether it be your knees, elbows, things like this. It's your arms and your legs are your assets, and you can go back and watch that video and see how I basically break that down and how you can exploit those things. Weapons are namely that. They're weapons. It could be your weapons, it could be your opponent's weapons. It doesn't really matter. And then location is basically it's the terrain, it's the environment that you're in. All three of those things you need to control. The guy who controls the assets of his opponent controls the weapons that are in play and controls the location, the environment that the fight is taking place in. That's the guy who wins the fight, period. Sorry guys, sun's out. So keep that in mind. I want to control all three of those. So how can I do this in a sport BJJ environment? Well, it's really no different. The only difference will be is that there's no weapons involved, but that doesn't mean that you can't put yourself in that mindset to where when I'm grappling a guy maybe in a sport jiu-jitsu mode, I realize that guard and half guard are not where I want to be. I want to get in there and I want to aggressively sweep this guy as quickly as I can and get to a dominant position while still being able to control his assets and isolate certain limbs, while still being able to make sure that those limbs don't break away from the fight to start to access weapons. And then as far as the location goes, I mean, at this point you're on the ground. It's a little difficult for you to actually tie in location, but that'll be something that you'll have to tie into the other aspects of your fighting. And probably the best example of how to use location to your advantage would be using a structure or using cover, using furniture in a room to off balance your opponent, things like this, using doorways as bottlenecks if you've got multiple attackers, things like this. This is all part of controlling your location. So controlling assets, weapons, and locations are things that you should be focused on in a real defensive format, and these are things that you can actually bring into your sport jiu-jitsu to where even though the other guy, your opponent, is focused on points or this or that or whatever, you yourself, you're actually training for reality. So you're getting in there and you're sweeping him and you're getting into a dominant position, and that affords you the opportunity to maybe pop up knee and chest so you can maintain situational awareness, so that you can access your tools, so that you can rain down punches, so that you can see other attackers that are coming into the fight. Things like this. Getting into a dominant position is not just about giving you the opportunity to apply a submission. It's also giving you the opportunity to find out what is going on around you and to open up opportunities for you to utilize weapons for yourself, or to disarm him and utilize his weapons against him. So keep that in mind when you're grappling kind of in a sport mode. The difference between the defensive tactics guy who is using jiu-jitsu as his format and the sport jiu-jitsu guy is really not a lot of the technique involved. It's really got more to do with the mindset and the overarching goal that is behind it. The defensive tactics guy wants to get in there, get it done, get in a position of domination as quickly as he can. The sport guy is looking to score points and basically apply a submission, as quickly as he can. So think about it in that aspect. So, all right, you guys train hard.